A ghost sheriff with a shotgun teams up with a sassy gunslinger in the Afterlife Wild West to prevent demons from coming through a hellgate. It's a thrilling showdown to save humanity's soul. Roy, a local sheriff, gets slain on a mission and is assigned to join the police department for the dead. He learns that his death is linked to a much darker scheme in which a demon seeks to rule the earth while attempting to exact retribution for his passing. A guy is excavating a hole in the dirt in a minefield at Red Creek, Utah in 1876 with the intention of discovering gold. A spirit emerges from the hole and takes possession of the man during the total lunar eclipse. The man is now crying and has a scorching mark on his chest. Then he gets up and opens his eyes, turning them dark. A month later, Roy picks up his daughter Charlotte and her fiancé, Angus, from the railroad station in the Wyoming town of Horseshoe. Although Charlotte tells Roy that he must accept Angus as his son-in-law since he makes her feel secure in content, Roy is highly skeptical of Angus. However, when 5 brothers, led by a man named Zeke Samuels, show up, their reunion is cut short. Roy brings Charlotte inside the station after witnessing the brothers abduct other bystanders. Charlotte urges Roy to keep Angus safe before he goes. After that, Roy hides behind a pile of suitcases while he engages 3 adversaries in gunfire. Then suddenly, Zeke emerges behind him. Fortunately, Roy is able to shoot him in the head and he slides beneath the train with the intention of avoiding the other 3. He isn't aware, though, that there is someone aboard the train pointing a gun at him. The moment the man presses the trigger, Roy finds himself in a strange realm. There he is welcomed to the afterlife by Hannah, a woman. He asks about Charlotte as soon as he learns that he has already passed away, to which Hannah responds that his daughter is still alive. Hannah then goes on to say that after looking through Roy's paperwork, the rest in Peace or RPD department has been assigned to him. She then goes on to identify herself as the RIPD West American Division's captain. Hannah claims that RIPD is God's police force sent to battle the Deados. Perplexed, what is a Deado? Roy wonders. According to Hannah, Deados are the spirits of the dead who evade judgment and remain present on Earth. The gods' existence on Earth poses a threat to all of humanity. Roy is then taken to the armory by Hannah. Stunning, Roy selects the rifle that catches his eye the most. Hannah compliments him on his decision, but Roy makes it clear that he still loves his old gun. But Hannah makes it clear that his firearm is ineffective against the Deados. They can only be permanently eliminated by RPD weaponry. Roy notices a symbol on the ground as he looks at the armory more. What Hannah refers to as the Ouroboros represents life, death, and rebirth. Once a human is taken over by a soul, the symbol will manifest in its torso. At last, Roy queries what he is doing at RIPD. Hannah reveals that there was a hellish discharge during the total eclipse that occurred in Red Creek approximately a month ago. If Roy agrees to participate in the expedition, he will be sent back to Earth. Roy agrees right away after hearing this, but Hannah is well aware of Roy's thoughts. She makes the argument that Roy should put the mission to Red Creek first and shouldn't seek retribution for his passing. Hannah is going to read Roy's contract after he accepts the mission, but Roy backs out. And to officially show that he is a member, his chest starts to feel hot as the RPD brand appears on his skin. Before Hannah sends Roy back to Earth, she reminds him that if he fails on his mission, humanity will end in 2 days. The scene changes to Roy leaving the portable toilet when he is suddenly tackled by a running bison. Then a woman on a horse arrives and introduces herself as Jean. She says she will take care of Roy during this mission. Roy says he doesn't need someone to look after him because he is used to working alone. But Jean insists that she was ordered by Hannah. Roy wants to have more authority in the mission, but Jean argues that Roy has only been dead for 3 days while she has been dead for 445 years. Angry, Roy brushes off Jean's comments and departs. Zeke and his henchmen are robbing people in the interim. When the police show up, Zeke's crew is involved in a shootout with them. Returning to Roy, he heads home to be with his daughter, but Jean yanks him out. Roy and Jean argue over Roy's inability to see his daughter. When they manage to aim their weapons at one another and their combat finishes in a draw, Jean eventually tells Roy that he can no longer see Charlotte since he has changed in appearance. Roy notices that he and Jean appear to be black women in the mirror of his and his wife's graves. However, Roy remains unchanged by this. Even after retrieving the photo of him and Charlotte from his tomb, Roy still feels the need to speak with his daughter. However, Jean again intervenes, warning him that any words he attempts to convey to Charlotte will be met with meaningless silence. Henry, Roy's closest buddy, enters at this point and notices the 2 women. Roy introduces himself as Mabel and Jean as Matilda. Then, in an effort to make them appear innocent, she makes up a tale about how they first met Roy. Henry accidentally admits that Angus was abducted by the Samuels while praising Roy's character to them. During the event in the bank, he also states that U.S. Marshals were able to detain 3 out of the 5 Samuels. At this, Roy feels compelled to go save Angus for his daughter, but Jean is adamant that Angus is not a part of their purpose. Even yet, Roy continues to attempt to save Angus, and Jean is forced to accompany him because she has no other option. Roy and Jean wait for the brothers' carriage to arrive after some time. Zeke and his siblings were formerly decent and God-fearing people, Roy now tells Jean. When their mother, Doris, said that her 5 sons went outside one day to work on an old well, the young men returned later that evening, transformed into a mad group of miscreants. Roy suddenly recalls that he shot Zeke in the head the day he passed away, and he is certain that he has killed him. Jean makes fun of him, implying that he might not be as skilled at marksmanship as he thinks. They are shocked to discover that the Samuels are carrying the Ouroboros emblem when they see the carriage in which they are riding. When Jean learns that Roy's family is deaf, she ultimately decides to assist Roy. They surprise the Marshals station to protect the brothers. Roy then tries, but is unsuccessful, to open the locked cage. Additionally, unable to locate the key, Jean chooses to use holy water to pop one of the brothers. To pop a deado is to make them expose who they really are beneath the flesh of their human form. When a dead animal escapes its cage, Roy kills it right away. When the other 2 brothers arrive and attempt to hold Roy down, Jean shoots one of them fast, leaving the other one alive so that he can be questioned. Roy later finds out that Slim, the person they left alive, is the one who was allegedly responsible for his death. When he confronts Slim about it, he claims that Roy's murder was staged and refutes the accusation. Jean thinks they must first collect information from Roy, even though Roy wants to kill him. He begins to gently pop after spitting a little holy water on Slim. After Slim consents to work with them, Jean stops the popping by jabbing a crucifix into him. Slim claims that Otis, a deceased man, is so strong that he was able to compel him and his brothers to abduct individuals and bring them to Red Creek. Slim responds Otis is just imprisoning them, to Roy's question about what Otis is doing with the kidnapped victims, even though he is unsure of Otis' specific intentions. Slim is certain it's something significant. The fact that other deados cannot eliminate other deados perplexes Jean. Then Slim says Otis has one of those RPD weapons, pointing at Roy's gun. Recognizing that things are not as bad as they initially believed, Roy, Slim, and Jean begin their journey to Red Creek. In the meantime, Otis receives word from a lady named Nell that Zeke's crew has taken 8 more prisoners. Zeke no longer wishes to follow Otis, according to Nell, therefore Otis decides to send the team on another hunt. It appears that other deados have doubts about Otis's true identity and place of origin. When Otis hears this, he tells her that he leaves during the eclipse by means of limbo because a piece of the gateway weakens. He goes on to say that the blood moon that occurs tonight will complete the tetradic lunar cycle, weakening the gateway as a whole. The humans they have gathered will then work tirelessly to excavate the gateway so that Otis can carry out his plan to dominate the planet. After Otis talks to Zeke about his waning faith in him, he punishes him by taking possession of Zeke's soul and shooting it with an RPD equalizer. When other deados saw this, they chose to follow Otis once more. Returning to the 3, Roy wants to destroy Slim because he is only extra weight for them, but Jean refuses, stating that a captured deado will be sent to Hanno and sent to hell. They won't kill deados unless it's really necessary. They eventually reach Red Creek later that evening as the red moon emerges. They observe that almost no one lives in the town and that everyone they encounter is ill. When they attempt to check in at this point, the hotel's owner, Julius, who also serves as the town's mayor, points to the sign stating that guests of color are not permitted. Furious, Roy pulls out his rifle and has the mayor burn the sign. While he does so, Jean turns around as if she's terrified of fire. Next, Julius asks Beverly, his African-American staffer, to take Roy and Jean to their room. Jean questions why the town is almost deserted and what's wrong with it. Although the source of their illness is unknown, according to Beverly, the residents of the town fled due to a gold rumor near Red Creek. Julius tells them that, at the very least. When Roy and Jean hear this, they start to mistrust Julius. Jean talks to Roy about her thoughts after Beverly left. Jean believes that the town's residents are ill because of the minefield, which is located in the Highlands. The fact that the prisoners in the minefield wear masks suggests that her theory is correct. When his daughter is going to take off her mask in an attempt to resuscitate her father after he passes out, Angus intervenes, warning her that doing so will result in her death. After checking on the father, he gives the woman the reassurance that he only needs some time to relax. Later, Julius, whose health is deteriorating, visits Otis and requests a mask in return for all of Otis' assistance. Otis, however, is adamant that the masks are just for his employees, and Julius begs him, stating that he doesn't want to die. Then, mockingly, Otis informs the man that death isn't always a bad thing. Otis promises Julius that a new day will soon dawn for all of humanity as he hands Julius a mask, but as it turns out, the mask is actually a trap. When Julius puts it on, Otis's men shackle him and place him in a carriage. Slim is attempting to persuade Roy and Jean that he can assist them back at the hotel. Roy, feeling sorry for the man, asks Jean whether the real Slim could still be inside his body. Jean responds that the real Slim has left and that the dead man now has total control over his body. Roy and Jean leave Slim in the hotel room and head to the church, but they find nobody there. Suddenly, they hear a man yelling for help outside. They rush to rescue him and find out it's Julius. They ask him what happened to him. Julius discloses that Otis took control of the entire town and sent all of the detainees to the mountain minefield. Jean understands that the minefield is the entrance to hell and that the deadly gas is killing people because it is rising from there. Jean eventually realizes, after making all the connections, that Otis intends to use the inmates to excavate the gateway and then transform everyone into deados and the rest of the world. Roy queries why Otis and his deados, who are more powerful than humans, didn't carry out the excavation. Jean responds that God put humanity in place as a barrier between earth and hell, and that souls can only rise again when humanity extends an invitation for them to return. After hearing everything, Julius considers them to be insane and laughs at them. Unexpectedly, Deados emerges to attack Roy and Jean from behind. Though they are outnumbered, they attempt to repel the Deados. In the meantime, Beverly finds a flyer at Julius' desk when she goes to fetch him his nightly tea. After reading its contents, Beverly assists Slim in removing his bindings. Slim provides Beverly with a mask in exchange for saving her life. He also gives her more extra masks and instructs her to distribute them to the remaining residents of the village. The scene shifts to Roy and Jean's jail, a minefield. When Nell shows up, she appears to know Jean. It turns out that Nell was a former member of the RPD and that, following her betrayal of the agency, she plundered the armory. Otis has an RPD equalizer because of this. Angus tries to fend off the Deados guarding them, but he fails terribly and interrupts their talk. Upon recognizing Angus, Roy comes to the realization that he is a virtuous man and the ideal partner for Charlotte. When the inmates are brought up at midnight, Otis and Nell speak with Roy, and Otis informs them that the RIPD cannot stop them now. Otis will dominate the Earth and transform it into the 10th circle of hell when the Deados seize control of the planet. Then, before the doorway closes, Otis gives Nell the command to bring the 2 RIPD policemen to him at daybreak so he can cast them into the abyss. Nell makes fun of Jean when Otis leaves, telling her that she will burn in hell forever since she is frightened of fire. Then it is revealed that Joan of Arc, the martyred saint, is actually Jean. Roy requests that they take action in case hell breaks loose. He learns from Jean that while she was still living, she discovered a pendant containing Christ's tears. They can put out the hellfire with this. They are shocked when Slim appears and defeats the Deados defending them. Before releasing them, Slim tells Jean that he wants to have a new trial for his case. Meanwhile, he shows Roy a news flyer that Beverly found, proving that he was framed for Roy's death. After being freed, Jean informs Roy that he must place Tears in the center of hell for their plan to succeed. She is unable to accompany them due to her fear of fire. However, Roy reminds her that she has been guarding the Tears of Christ for 445 years and closing hell is her destiny. The scene shifts to the prisoners digging a hole into the ground to open hell, leading to damned souls possessing people. Angus cautions the others not to look at the souls to avoid being possessed. Upon hearing this, Otis commands the Deados to make the prisoners open their eyes. Slim shows up pretending to have Roy at gunpoint and lies to Otis that Jean rebelled and killed the guards, leading to her own death. Otis then orders Slim to throw Roy into hell. Slim eventually shoots Otis, but a soul intervenes to protect him. Roy instructs Slim to help Angus evacuate the remaining humans while he battles Otis and the other Deados. Unfortunately, a large Deado gains the upper hand against Roy. Seeing this, Jean gathers her courage and leaps over the pits of hell to drop the Tears of Christ, ultimately defeating the large Deado. She thrusts her sword into the ground and she and Roy grip onto it tightly as everything is pulled into the closing hell. Slim and the civilians also cling to the prison grills to avoid being sucked in. Once hell is sealed off, Roy and Jean believe their mission is complete. Unfortunately, Otis, who is actually Astaroth, the devil's right-hand man, does not get pulled into hell. Astaroth reveals himself and Roy shoots at him with a shotgun to divert his attention while Jean retrieves her sword. However, Roy and Jean are no match for the powerful demon. Astaroth uses the souls to capture Roy and Jean, but Jean pulls out a crucifix that weakens the souls' hold on them. Roy finds the tears of Christ and puts them on his gun, using it to shoot and get rid of Astaroth for good. As the sun rises, the prisoners are reunited with their families at Red Creek. Roy also confronts Julius about his death, and Julius admits that he shot Roy because he believed Roy was one of the Samuels. Instead of seeking revenge, Roy sends Julius to prison. With Slim as the temporary sheriff and Beverly as his deputy, they work together to restore peace and order to the town. Before Roy and Jean leave, they remind Slim that they will come back for him during his retrial. Then, the day of Charlotte and Angus' wedding arrives. Roy is unable to communicate in a way that they can understand, so he gives his message to Charlotte through a tight hug. Afterwards, Roy and Jean return to the portable toilet, which is the gateway to RPD. Roy confesses to Jean that he's finally ready to enter heaven, but she laughs at him when she realizes he didn't read his contract. It turns out that Roy can only go to heaven after serving in the RPD for 100 years. As the movie ends, Roy is once again hit by a fleeing bison. Thanks for watching, take care, and bye for now. See you soon in the next video.